Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching in the world. My name is Sean Driver. This is the Red Horde, and 18th time we've done this. The Do We Hate Ya, Who Are Ya series, where we end up looking at clubs around League Two, try to figure out who they are, what they're about, get the history, trying to get an understanding and a grasp on the English Football League in particular. So the question is for Accrington Stanley. Let's get into it. Accrington Stanley, the Old Reds, located in, Accrington in Lancashire. Population 34,456. The Crown Ground. The location now more affectionately known, and I guess for a while, since 2015, as Wham Stadium. Open 1968, capacity 5,450. That's 3,100 seated. They have an uncovered end, and we'll talk about that in a later video. I'll talk about that soon. 2,437 this season. That's the average. Just under halfway full. We'll talk about that in another video. 22nd overall this year as far as average attendance go. Distance away from the race course, 77 miles, 124 kilometers. Duration, if you're driving it, an hour and 35 minutes. For those of you who are looking to take train transit going up there, there are some bus connections that may be required. However you plan to go there, multiple lines. So track that because it could be an issue. Turnover, despite, to be fair, an open ownership group, Andy Holt leading the way, the financials as far as what their turnover, not on Company's House and relatively silent, so not going to get into that. Rather, just jump straight into the history. Accrington Stanley, originally, this is another third iteration. Originally, Accrington FC was a founding member of the EFL, was ultimately relegated in the Football League back in 1892-93, and then dissolved in 1896. So Accrington FC out. Accrington Stanley is then formed. Eventually, they started playing in Tier 3 of the Football League. That's from 1921 to 1960. Then they're relegated alongside Wrexham in 1959-1960. Then the following year, things start to go downhill. They resigned in 1961-62 after 33 games. That was a year that Wrexham was promoted up to the third tier that season. And then Accrington Stanley then went into liquidation in 1966. So cue the third iteration. The current iteration of Accrington Stanley formed in 1968, and they toiled, climbed their way up the ladder, and eventually won the seventh tier, which was the Northern Premier League division in 1999-2000. 2002-2003, they won the sixth tier, the Northern Premier League, and moved there, which is now would be the National League North. 2005-2006, the other Paul Mullen. That's the one born in 1974 in Burnley. And described as the Stanley legend, helped the club get to the EFL, not our Super Paul Mullen, born 20 years later out of Liverpool. 2015, Holt takes over. He clears the debt with a sponsorship package from Whatmore UK. Wham Stadium is named. He immediately improves the immediate day-to-day operations, gets creative with respect to the club's bar, which is to be a jewel up at the Crown Ground, the Wham Stadium, and apparently open to both away and home fans. And so driving that economic generator that you should be driving in order to get the ability to spend money. But football revenue through the SCMP protocol, the FFP regulations, that sort of thing. So he's pushing that agenda to start. The kit, they've always had a red home. They had a light blue one historically. Then they went to this god-awful bright yellow and blue. That then disappeared. Then they went to back to the blue influence. Or there was some black for a period of time. Then they went to a blue influence. But this year it's got the vertical stripes. Way different with respect to the third. Very catchy, very unique. And I'm okay with it being unique, especially when you've got those first two to meet the brand. And look, smaller clubs, you're looking to sell jerseys, right? So make them interesting, make them different. And Macron did that with the return to blue. Not really sold on the stripes, but it is what it is. It's connected to branding. It's connected to history. And the other thing is Macron's got to get some credit here because they do, I think, the best bespoke jerseys. The ones that came prior to, I believe it was Adidas off the top of my head, just boring stock, no interest kit. So not bad. I'll take them. Bookie odds had them placing 15th, a mid-table team. Their performance this year, 8 wins, 2 draws, 7 losses. That's 26 points and into 8th place. As far as their FA Cup, they have a first round replay coming up with Donny back at home after a 2-2 draw at Keepmoat. In the EFL Cup, they also lost to Bradford City, just like us, in penalties. They did it in the first round. We did it in the second. And then the EFL Trophy, they're likely through into the round of 32. They've got a game against Nottingham Forest U21 team. They'd have to lose and then have Harrogate beat Carlisle United and make up the goal difference of, I believe it's 4 goals. So looking specifically at their last 5 games, or their season in general, strong for the first 5, 3 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. Struggled for the next 5, 1 win, 4 losses. And then strong again for the following 5, 4 wins and 1 draw. And now they're back into a 5-game downward spiral, it looks like. 2 losses anyways. So in their last 5, 2 wins, 0 draws, 3 losses. And just to go through and have a look at them, they had a loss away to Crawley Town 3-1. They were down 2-1 and then they took a red in the 74th minute. They were ahead in possession, ahead in shots, ahead on shots on target, way ahead in corners 8-1. They were even in passes. They didn't really have any big chances, but it looks to me that the goalkeeper may have let them down there. McCracken only had a 5.2 on FotMob. They deserved potentially a better fate than a 3-1 loss. The red card didn't help, and they had some missed opportunities with saves, it looks like. Lost at home at Colchester the game before that, 1-0. They were really let down in that as a result because they dominated in all statistical categories. 65th% possession, more than a goal ahead in expected goals, 31 total shots. Yeah, but only 6 on target. Not good. 3 big chances, all missed. 218 more passes than Colchester had. 11 corners to 0. Really, it looks like what happened is they gave up a fast break chance and against the run of play, and Colchester was able to capitalize, and that's that one. They comfortably took out AFC Wimbledon 4-2 away. Prior to that, the result matches with the statistics. They were slightly ahead in possession, 17 shots, 9 on target. They had 5 big chances and more passes. It was well-deserved, and it looks like Joel Pritchard leading the way with 2 goals and an assist. The game prior to that, 1-0 win at home to MK Dons, a draw that was deserved statistically speaking. They only had 37 possession, but they were way ahead in all other categories: shots on target, and big chances. It's interesting, their possession stats leave a little bit to be desired, as does their passing. They appear to be a direct club that likes to advance the ball at their feet, or alternatively, long balls into the corner and crosses, it looks like. With our 3-5-2, it may be an interesting matchup. I would expect to see, given the number of crosses, you'll see them statistically, that we're going to maybe look to move O'Connor out for this one and go with 3 big bodies in the back. Tozer on one side, Hayden on the other, and pick a different left back. Could be O'Connor, but I think you'd want the height and the aerial superiority, given what they tend, it looks like, in the statistics to do. The last game of the set of 5 away at Grimsby Town had a 2-0 win, scored both goals after Grimsby Town picked up a red in the 72nd minute. Appears a draw was likely in the cards, so maybe this was the game that they were fortunate, and they had unfortunate prior to that. Near equal shots, but they had 2 more than Grimsby. On target were equal. So really things were even up all the way through. It's just got an advantage of things going to red. Pulling up the stats then and throw those up there as the comparison between the 2 clubs. Obviously, we're leading the league as shots. It's that overwhelming sort of swarm offense that we've got going on right now. But they're not that far behind, 4.59 shots per 90 anticipated. As for goals per shot on target, despite our swarming mentality, only 31% are going through and finding the back of the net, where they're at 42%, way ahead, which is indicative of one of 2 things. Either they're exceptional shots, or they've had a little bit of luck. It could be somewhere in between, though. It's not polarizing. It's not bipolar. There's some options there, but they're definitely getting some help there with efficiency at the front end. Shots on target against, we're doing relatively well. 61 shots on target against. That's good for 8th. They're struggling. 83 shots against. That's good for 19th. And when you have a team that takes a lot of shots and you give up a lot of shots, that has a potential interesting dynamic here to see what strategy works with those corners for them coming over and whether they're able to beat us, and for us, whether we're just able to overwhelm. We'll find out. Accurate passes per match, 306.8. That's right in the middle of the league. And for them, again, near the bottom. Not a lot of passes at all in total. These guys on their feet or through the air and crosses seems to be the mentality. Accurate crosses per match, 6.9. That leaves us first. For them, 4.9. That's 12th. So despite that being a strategy, need to tidy up there a little bit if they're going to threaten. Accurate long balls per match, relatively equal, a little bit more than most teams, 32.4. That puts us 6th. 32.1. That puts them 8th. And we're expected season average to score more goals than they do. As to the last match played against Accrington Stanley, again, Wrexham AFC archive.co.uk is the source. Go there, check them out. April 26, 2008, a 1-3 loss at the racecourse for Wrexham in front of 3,657 in League Two. We were relegated that year. They were 17th. And so, yeah, we don't want to talk about 2008. Carrying on. Connections to Wrexham, none our way. Nobody there, I mean, other than Paul Mullen sharing a name. That's the only connection, but that's tenuous at best. Sean Whalley, 36-year-old midfielder, though, did have 4 goals in 16 games for Wrexham back in 2008-2009. Eventually went out to loan on Southport at some point in time. Last season, obviously, they're a League One relegated club. 11 wins, 11 draws, 24 losses. That was good for 44 points. 2 points from safety. Really what did them in was 3 wins in 12 matches towards the end of the season. They did get 2 of the last 3, but just not enough to pull them there after they're falling apart. The gaffer, and this is an interesting one with John Coleman, because back on October 22nd, man, did he and Mr. Andy Holt have a falling out and still figuring out what's going on there. Doesn't sound like his job is at issue, because Accrington doesn't have the money to necessarily pay for it, I would suspect, based on what we've read. Follow along in another video. I'll give details at the end. But the tweet that came out was that there was piss poor decision in managing. This was from Andy Holt, the owner, including his decisions. Andy Holt, that there was no contract renewed. They're cash strapped. And so there's some trouble in Accrington, as it seems. Been with the club since 2014, and this is his second stint. Prior to that, he was there May 1999 to 2012. So he really was the guy who pushed the team forward. I mean, in 1999-2000, he was at the helm when they moved up from the 7th tier. There was a 3-way tie on points. They had the goal differential. Congratulations, you're the champions. Boop, you're up. 2002-2003, they then won the 6th tier, the Northern Premier League, which is now National League North, and they got their bump up into the National League in 2005-2006. He led them out of that league, the National League, and he was named EFL manager for the season in 2017-2018. As to their team roster, man, they are young and they're very lone focused. They've got 3 guys in from Norwich City, the goalkeeper, 23, McCracken, a couple of center backs in Shipley and Hills. They've got another guy on loan from the championship via QPR, Josh Andrews, a center fielder, 22, on loan from Birmingham City. And then they went out and had picked up a couple of young guys on freeze, as well as an old veteran, Kevin Meller, 32. He came over from Crewe. Having a look at their players then, and I've intimated already that this is sort of a club that likes the crosses. But when you look at their statistics, this isn't one where I've been able to look at a position and say, oh, well, they're weak in the midfield, or they're weak in the back line, or they're weak in goal. They are average-ish, pretty much right across the board. There's no position where they're spectacular, but there's no position where they struggle. And go with their forwards. This is really indicative of it. Josh Andrews, 22, 1,356 minutes for him. He's the leading scorer with 5. So turning to Josh's statistics, shots taken, he's in the 89th percentile. His shot conversion rate, the 74th percentile. Shot conversion is goals per how many shots you take. Shot accuracy is how many on target, 75th percentile. So he's there, he's sniffing around, nothing spectacular, nothing that falls off the map. He seems to be a capable forward with no real pop at the moment, which you'd maybe expect at 22. Joe Pritchard, he's been getting more runs out recently, 855 minutes, but he's got 3 goals. Essentially, per 90 stats, Mr. Pritchard, Mr. Andrews, almost near identical. They're getting, I think it's 0.33 goals per 90 for both of them. Shots on target, a little bit more than Mr. Andrews, but and a little bit better on the shots on target, 91%. So Joe Pritchard, well, he's a little bit more volume guy and a little less accuracy. He's got 95th percentile for his shots taken, but then you look down at shot conversion rate, his shot accuracy. He's in the yellow, 69th percentile for shot conversion, 59th percentile for shot accuracy. Just to bring that up and compare to somebody, well, let's go with Paul Mullen, and you can compare it with both of them. Joe Pritchard and Paul Mullen equal when it comes to shots taken on and off target. little bit more from Paul Mullen, a little bit more from Pritchard than young Andrews. As far as the shot conversion rate and the shot accuracy, well, Mullen's leading the way there, 81st percentile. When he's on net, it's deadly. His issue, he's only at 45%, 59th percentile. And we've seen that. We've seen a couple of opportunities where he's been running even in the free, even in the clear, and pushed some balls over top of the net. So that's been one area that he's been continually improving on. But you can see they're in the realm of a Paul Mullen. They're just that shot conversion rate, not where it needs to be. And when it is closer, they're struggling on the volume. They did give a start to one other player. Limited stats, not able to pull it out. Adedoyan got one start. In the midfield, Sean Whalley, we referenced him being the veteran, 36, 1,193 minutes. He's got 4 goals, and he's chipping in up front. And so I went and looked at his shooting stats more than anything else, because it was his shooting stats that were the most impressive. So you can see even if you recall, maybe you don't, I'm not going to go back, but Andrews had 2.01 shots per game, Pritchard 2.36, Paul Mullen 2.28, he's at 1.92, so as a midfielder, not falling off the map, and he's got a decent shot conversion rate, 75th percentile, and a decent shot accuracy rate at 80%, and so he seems to be certainly interested in running forward and joining the center forwards in attack, and seems capable in that area. That leaves the other 3 largely either defensively or being the party who's supposed to be delivering service, right? Longelo Mbule took his statistics there, interceptions, and you're going to see that as a thread when you get into the center backs. That's what if Accrington Stanley does something well, it's their interceptions. Longelo Mbule, he's, aside from interceptions, Longelo Mbule, he's better than most with his ground duels won, especially on the team, 91st percentile, but aerial duels, getting dribbled past, that's not necessarily a strong suit, but you can expect, I would expect him to be in support of the back line here through the game. It tends to be where statistics are. Tommy Lee, 23 years of age, 1,112 minutes. Mr. Lee has been with the club for a while. You'll see here, looking at the stats for him, and you'll see those key passes, those successful crosses. That's him. He's a service guy, so you'll see him probably not sniffing around the net, but I'm sure he's going to be responsible for trying to get the guys the ball, whether that be pushing direct or from the corner crosses. The other player getting a lot of time out there, Jack Nolan, 22, 987 minutes. He has 4 goals. He's also leading the team in goal involvement. He's got 3 assists. That leaves him tied with Pritchard, but because of the goals and assists, his goal involvement is the highest on the team. Can see he's got the crosses down, but no passing really like Tommy Lee. It tends to be, or seems to be, that's the strategy going forward, which explains why their passing numbers are so low, is that they're running ball through maybe a little bit of interplay to get it into the corner and then looking to get it to the front of the net. So what do I say? Big bodies in the middle. For Saturday, Parky, if you're listening to me, you probably shouldn't be, but if you were, that's my take. Defenders, Brad Hill, 19, 1,423 minutes. It looks like he's on the left side more often. I haven't seen such a one-sided defender like this. When I look at his statistics, and from Brad Hill's, I had to go to FotMob because Footy Stats wasn't up. By the way, check out both of their sites. They've got all the details. Happy to push them. 57th percentile on tackle wins percentage, but 100% again in interceptions. That's the Accrington Stanley way. It's the interceptions. 0% in aerial duels, but there's another one who's at 0. I just can't see that being the case, that they're both at 0. It must be that the statistics are just incomplete. But I put it there, 9% in being dribbled past. So maybe a target for getting run at when you've got one of these young guys standing in front of our KG veterans. Kevin Mellor, already talked about him, 32, 945 minutes on the right-hand side. Kevin Mellor, the veteran from Crewe who came over, 945 minutes. He seems to be more on the right-hand side. You look at his numbers, his aerial duels won. He's only got 20 of them. He's 82nd percentile, which makes me think that he's not really that involved in the middle of the box. And you'll see, again, interceptions are quite high, 82nd percentile, but he's there with some clearances. And that seems to be his game, is those interceptions on that right side. Looking more towards the center, then there's a number of options that can go in there, but Jay Rich is the most frequent, 24-year-old, 940 minutes as a center, 74th percent in interceptions, 41st percent in ground duels. But again, we see those aerial duels at 0. So not much I can take away from the statistics there except to say it certainly appears to me that this is just an average team doing average things, which given their size, to be fair, probably isn't that bad. 34,000 is a market to draw on for income. But the punching above their weight class, I'd suggest, bookies certainly say that that's the case. And they just haven't been able to find consistency. And that's also a byproduct of having so many young bodies. They're going to come out like gangbusters sometimes, and sometimes they're just going to not be on the pitch. Goaltenders, they've had a clear divide. They started with Toby Savin. He started weeks 1 through weeks 9. Then they lost to Tranmere Rovers. He was out, and in came John McCracken. Just going back to Savin, his save percentage, 54.5%. That's not so good. So a reason why they've gone with McCracken, a 23-year-old. He's on loan from Norwich City. 2/3 of the starts, and he's been in since week 10. He's got a 71% save percentage, so doing a little bit better, but just to keep it on par. Ogonko sitting at 80%, so that sort of identifies where they fit in the league. So that really wraps up the stats. I ran those through together because I'm working on another video. Andy Holt is a fascinating man, the chairman, owner of Accrington Stanley. He's been there for a while now, 8 years, drove the sponsorship to save the club and clear off a bunch of debt. And so he needs to be complimented for his willingness to get involved for the betterment of Accrington Stanley. He's also lippy. And the stuff that he's very active on Twitter. He's been critical of Wrexham throughout. I've got a problem with their ticket sales, and I tweeted about this. A lot of people responded and said, hey, home team, away team, we're all paying this increase in tickets that have come up for it. It's because police force and it makes sense. I don't buy it. But I'm going to try to impartially present the evidence in a subsequent video and let you guys make up the decision on things. And so that's where we sit with it. All right, it's that time where we end up looking at what type of food or what professional sports club is Accrington Stanley most like. And the sports club is probably the easiest one. I mean, pick a small market club and just go with it. You're going to choose the Arizona Coyotes. You're going to choose the Milwaukee Brewers, maybe the Minnesota Twins. Does that qualify? They'd had numbers this year, I guess. The Green Bay Packers. That's who you're going with Accrington Stanley. And I say that because with a small population in the city at 35,000, I'm not saying it because they don't have passionate fans. I'm saying it because the draw is small, so it limits what they're capable and able to do. And that's the comparison that they'd have. The Saskatchewan Roughriders in the CFL would be a perfect example. Passionate, but certainly geographically restricted to that area. Going off on that theme then and trying to pick something, Accrington Stanley is a bowl of rice. A staple. Nothing flashy, nothing nightmarish. You don't hear anybody ever say, I hate rice. But you don't hear a lot of people saying, I love rice on its own either. And so that's Accrington Stanley. They exist. In today's EFL, that's actually a compliment, and Holt gets that. We'll talk about that stuff later. So, hey, hopefully getting this one out tonight. That leaves it way in advance for me to try and get the other one out tomorrow or the day after. We're there for the watch party on Saturday. We'll put that out into the system, and then anticipating Swansea for the women on Sunday. We're getting close to 1,000 subscribers, and I keep forgetting to mention this. I might have to add another one. We're getting close to 1,000 subscribers. So if you enjoy this content, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. It's great for the algorithm gods, trying that onward push to 1,000 so we can get there. This has been Sean Driver. I'm going to cut it off there. Welcome to the Red Horde. Cheers.